I am LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk. Hello, welcome to I am LaMarsha Lewis YouTube channel. I am LaMarsha Lewis. Today is Wednesday, February the 10th, 2021. We're going to do some commentary. Want to talk about today is day 2 of the second impeachment for Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States. As we know, January the 13th, Donald J. Trump being the only United States president to ever be impeached twice in the House of Representatives. He was impeached for the January 6, 2021 insurrection that took place at his incitement, at his command, at his direction at our nation's capital there in Washington, D.C., where our United States congressmen and women was there to do the certification of the electoral college votes for the, at the time, President-elect Joe Biden. You had the Vice President, you had all, again, the congressmen and women, House of Representatives, you had the Senator, you had the Speaker of the House, everyone, and Donald J. Trump incited an insurrection. 5 people lost their lives on that day. 2 police officers have since taken their lives. It was also another gentleman where I read that was a banker, took his life because he couldn't handle the role in which he played. We have learned that many police, over 100-something police reports of injuries that day. We've heard with broken ribs, officers expected to lose an eye, people had broken fingers, and it was just completely something that you could not imagine. And I remember seeing it January the 6th. Then yesterday, I was just horrified by what I was seeing, and today it was worse. I know it's going to continue to get worse, as we all have heard the saying. It gets worse before it gets better. A lot of this is very horrific, very gruesome. Cause today they show the police that got killed and all of that. They show how Officer Eugene Goodman saved the life of Senator Mitt Romney from Utah. As we know, Mitt Romney was the second person that President Barack Obama went against. He was the Republican candidate when President Obama did his second term for president, in which President Obama did beat that of Mitt Romney, and now he's a United States Senator for the state of Utah. Again, it showed videos of the officer Eugene Goodman, who's the same officer that our now Vice President Kamala Harris chose to be her officer, the person to escort her on the day of inauguration, January the 20th. But it's going to be more gruesome videos that we, the American people, will get to see from the House managers, and this must be shown. And as Joy said on The View today, they must continue to show these videos over and over and over. I still have faith, my hope and trust is in God, because God is a God of order, and everything has an expiration date. So I'm trusting God for the right thing to happen. I'm trusting and believing that Donald J. Trump will get the ramification that he should get, which is being convicted and to never be able to hold any type of official public office in our country, because this was just beyond horrific. And again, as one of the senators, when they had broke earlier today, they asked Lisa Murkowski, I think she's the senator from Alaska, and as she was saying, she lived it out then when it happened, January the 6th, and she's reliving this out again. So I hate that for them, the congressmen and women, especially those that have taken it seriously, unlike many of the Republicans who are refusing to hold Donald J. Trump accountable, and just trying to, many of them that chose not to, didn't even want a Senate trial. They didn't even want Donald J. Trump, and they don't want Donald J. Trump to be held accountable. And I just can't fathom that. How can you be okay with a person that incited an insurrection to our nation's capital, where our government officials, our congressmen and women that have been elected by the 50 states. You're the people that's there to represent us, the American people, and you took an oath that you was going to defend and protect the United States Constitution against foreign and domestic. But as it has been stated over and over numerous of times, the enemy was that of our own and of the person that had the highest position in our country, that being the President of the United States. How can you defend someone that has become an enemy, has become a traitor? I don't understand it, nor will I ever. And as I have said in previous commentary, and people were saying this today, this is something that has been marked in our United States history that will never go away. This is another day, as now the majority leader Chuck Schumer said, a day of infamy. Just like President Franklin D. Roosevelt said when the Japanese had attacked their Pearl Harbor and all of that, a day of infamy, December the 7th, January the 6th, 2021, has now been added to a day of infamy. And again, we're seeing all this gruesome, horrible, horrific, but we must see them. We, the American people, must see the evidence. And again, I just hope that they say they need at least 17 Republicans to come along and join with the Democrats for a conviction. I hope God will really prick the heart of 17, if not more. Really, I don't see how anyone. I heard Sonny say that today, and some other people have said it as well on various platforms and news outlets and social media and all of that. I don't see how anyone cannot vote for nothing other than a conviction. I mean, because people died. People died. And this was our United States senators and congressmen. Then it showed the video of the Vice President Mike Pence. He and his family being rushed out of the chambers, rushed out from where they were being sheltered because of the breach and the insurrection, and where they showed where he was taken to another protected location. They wanted to get him. It was said that they wanted to get him out of the Capitol, period. But Mike Pence chose not to go, and I must say that was commendable of Mike Pence, because he could have left, but I have never been a fan of his, nor am I a fan today. But I believe when you gotta do right, you just have to be right. It's always the right thing to do is do right. Be and be good and practice kindness and respect and love. So he could have left, because he was the vice president, and then you had the Madam Speaker and all of that. But he chose to stay there. He had his family with him, but yet still he chose to stay there. And it was saying how Trump had not even checked on him. It went days. The insurrection happened on Wednesday. I believe it wasn't until Sunday, maybe even Monday, but I know it was days. I know that Thursday it was stated that Mike Pence did not go to work or at the White House or anything. He was at his residence, but it was days before Trump even spoke to Mike Pence. He didn't even check on him. He didn't check on anyone. He was calling people, trying to get them to continue to get Republicans to overturn the will of the American people. And I'm like, how can you be okay with a man who know he didn't win, refused to accept that he didn't win, but he put out this grand, big lie, this conspiracy? Why would you want someone of that type of character to lead our country. And then why would people want to still be support? The answer to why people would still support someone of the vileness and evilness, the corruptness, and basically the selfishness of Donald J. Trump, they too are those type of people. They have the same characteristics. They have the same, as I have said, hate. Hate, racism is at the core of all of this. It's been said, and I would love to know, how did Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz get to be jurors when, one, they too must be held accountable? Because we saw Josh Hawley with his fists up, and when Ted Cruz there, January the 5th there in Georgia, promoting that the election was stolen and all of this rhetoric. How do these two people get to be on the jurors? Who were the people to do the selection of the jurors? But it's been said Josh Hawley supposedly today had his feet propped up and was reading some other material, not focusing on what was. That's because if he truly focused on what is being presented, because he saw how gruesome it was, he know how gruesome it was, he know how horrible and how terrible it was. But if he really did the right thing, sat there and tentatively, actively listened, watched, took in, meditated on the evidence being presented, he couldn't still back Donald J. Trump. Because at some point, he would have to be human. See, right now, he's not. He's chosen to be turned over to a reprobated mind, as the Bible speaks of. Again, and I said in the commentary previously, after you've done wrong for so long, God will turn you over to a reprobated mind. See, it's a choice to accept the will of God, to accept God as your Lord, your Savior, the person that guides you, directs you, instructs you, and with that, God is of order. And it's John 3:16. God is love. He has no respect to person. He said you are to love your neighbor as yourself. Who is your neighbor? Any other person, any other human being. So if Josh Hawley would do the right thing and do what he's supposed to, what a juror is supposed to actively, attentively listen to evidence being given, being presented, being shown, there is no way he could come out and still support that of Donald J. Trump, the person who is on trial. His second impeachment. The second impeachment. And I'm going to play a clip from the ladies of The View today talked about day one. Again, today was day two. And we'll see how the next 2 days continues to show us so much more than what we had. You can't imagine it. You can't even fathom it. But let's listen to this. This is Megan McCain.
Texted yesterday when I left to work. Have you seen the video? Have you seen the video? Have you seen the video? And I was like, what video? And then I saw the 13-minute presentation that they put forth. And look, I got home and I watched it. I actually had to sit down when I was watching it because it literally took my breath away, and I started crying again. It's like revisiting trauma. I have been so intensely and deeply impacted by what happened on January 6th for a variety of reasons, and I think all Americans are. But when you see Congressman Raskin talking and saying, like, his daughter doesn't want to come back to the Capitol, I too don't want to go back to the Capitol right now. And I was literally raised going to the Capitol my entire life, and I think it's one of the most, historically and, significant and most beautiful places in our entire country. One of the things that struck me the most was seeing President Trump talk about Vice President Pence in his rally, and then cutting to the footage inside the Capitol of the rioters violently storming, and then Vice President Pence having to be rushed out immediately. There's just something about the real-time, words have ramifications. The rhetoric we put out have ramifications, and you can see in real time what happens when you say, call Vice President Pence a traitor, and then people outside the Capitol are screaming, "Traitor Pence, traitor Pence," and it's like something out of a dystopian science fiction movie. I too agree with Sunny that I don't understand how anyone could vote against impeachment, but I do, and logically when it comes to politics, the ethics of this I don't understand, but the politics of this is that Republicans want to move on. They want to still walk the fine line of being sort of attached to Trump and not being attached to Trump. Nikki Haley, I believe, said in the most maybe disgusting language I've ever heard, give the guy a break. Well, it's hard for me to give President Trump a break when our vice president could have been killed because of the things he was saying. And I think that I would love to see more Republicans come out and do the right thing ethically, but politics is going to come in the middle of this. And one final thing, I really, 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 like I said, it's not just rhetoric that I've been really, really moved and really sort of messed up from what happened on January 6th. I'm really trying to do my part in putting positivity into the world, trying to really meet in the middle on this show as much as I possibly can, because I ultimately can only control myself. I really call to the rest of you on this show and to everyone in America to all of us collectively come together and really try and amp down this temperature as much as we can, because I don't want to see any more violence, and I'm actually scared about what the future holds. And if we just keep demonizing each other and attaching all Republicans with those lunatics on Capitol Hill, we're going to end up with a Marjorie Taylor Greene as president, and I'm more fearful of that than possibly anything else facing us in the future.
And that was Meghan McCain, and it was something she said that stuck out with me. I don't like it, and I don't like it because she said she gets the ethics of it, but it's politics. And this is what I wrote down, because I often take notes, because since I started this YouTube channel, I love the view. And again, that's my aspiration one day to maybe start off as a guest co-host, and maybe one day even be an actual co-host. But so I take notes. But she said it's the politics. And this is what I wrote. I said, it's sad that Republicans care more about politics than doing the right thing, holding Trump accountable. They care more about politics than basically the fact that human beings, them included, on January the 6th, 2021, could have been killed. And the fact that 5 people were killed on January the 6th. Two police officers have taken their lives. Just last week, they get the Officer Brian Sidney was lied in state at the Rotunda. His remains, because he was cremated. We had the American flag and the box in which his ashes were in, or was in. But they care more about politics. Is this really where we are? Is this really where we are as a people, as human beings, that we're no more human, that we care about having integrity, as I often state, care about ethics, doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do? But we care more about politics, we care more about power, we care more about, again, racism, hatred, and getting our own way, our own agenda at any cost, that it stops me, that person, from being human. Woe unto you. And it's sad. That is sad. But as bad as I hate it, she's right. That's the reality. It's about freaking politics. You're playing with our lives, and we, the American people, are the hostage. Because see, again, the congressmen and women in our United States government, the people in Washington, D.C., they're there to represent us, but of course they don't give a rat's butt about the average the poor, the struggling American. They don't want even to give a $15 minimum wage. They don't want to give $1,400 stimulus package or $2,000 stimulus package, but all of their salaries is $100,000 and up. They have the best health care. All of them got to get the vaccine. Come on, people. We have to become awake. If you're not awake, we got to become very vocal. We got to become advocates to what is right. And we got to make a stand. If you sometimes got to stand by yourself. Especially us of color, African Americans, immigrants, people that come to this country for a better way of life, just so that they can have safety, be able to have a roof over their head, the amenities that they should have, take care of them, their families, their children, themselves. See, that's what love is. Love is loving your fellow mankind without being envious of them or greed, hatred, bigotry, and all of this. That is not of God. And that's not love. See, it's gotten to point to where it's so much greed, but the love of money, the love of power. And again, we must see these horrific events of the videos that's being shown to us by the House manager. As horrific as it is, we must. I agree. George Behart said on The View today, they must show it over and over again. And I want to talk about this as well. The Republican keeps saying it's unconstitutional to try Trump because he's no longer the president. And I have heard some outlets, I think it was Dana Bush from CNN, I heard her, I think it was her that said, but I've heard people, social media journalists and reporters and things of that said, it was Mitch McConnell, and I have said it in my commentary, and I'm saying it now, and I'll say it again. It was Mitch McConnell, at that point in time, was the majority leader in the Senate. As we know, when Donald J. Trump was the president, the Republicans had control of everything. They had control of the House. They had control of the Senate. That's why they did what the blank they wanted without any repercussion. And it's like, you better not say anything to me because I do what I want. That's what we have experienced the last 4 years. As I have said, that's how and why they did the ram rush of Amy Coney Barrett. Because they was trying to pack the courts, as that little new slogan slang that they got going, pack the courts, when they was doing all the packing of conservative Supreme Court justices as they could. And then now they have the audacity to say Biden's going to pack the court. I said, well, so if he does, oh well. But see, accountability. They have done what they wanted, how they wanted, and again, with that notion, you better not say anything to us about, because we're the Republicans. We're the GOP, that grand old party. We can do what we want. And they did. It was Mitch McConnell that chose not to bring the senators back to handle Donald J. Trump before January 20th inauguration. He could have brought them back after they had did the certification. But no, they already basically put a plot in place because they didn't want to hold him accountable. Even after Mitch McConnell going out there saying that Donald Trump played a role, that he incited the insurrection. Even after that the spineless, not about crowd Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, Trump was responsible. Even after all that, these still spineless, speckless cowards, complicit and accomplices, because they have been his enablers for the past 4 years and they continue to, they didn't hold Trump accountable. Mitch McConnell did not call the United States senators back in order to have a trial to hold him. And now they want to give us this crap that is unconstitutional. I say that's BS. And again, if they are sitting there and it was said that it was quiet in the chambers with those today, day 2, when the House members was playing those horrific videos, but they must be played because the evidence must be shown. They were just, some was shaking their head like in disbelief. And then again, as like I said, the senator from Alaska said, reliving it again. Some of these AOC talking about how she gave a very open, heartfelt Instagram Live a few weeks ago where she said she's a survivor of sexual assault and how she suffered from PTSD, and I'm sure there's so many others. How can you not want Trump to be held accountable? Nikki Haley doesn't get to say, move on. You can't move on without accountability. You don't move on from something as horrific as this insurrection, this sedition, the breach of our nation's capital, without holding the person accountable for what he did. Consequences. As I say, your words, our words have consequence. Rhetoric has consequence. And insurrection has consequences. And Donald J. Trump got to walk out January the 20th, just like he like all other previous presidents when they turn in. And they prove how this man, and this also was brought up today in day 2 of the trial. It was the gentleman that did the first debate. It showed where he and Chris Wallace, where he was doing an interview with Trump, and he had asked him, if he didn't win, would he do a peace for transfer of power? He was asked this over and over. Will you do a peaceful transfer of power, as other predecessors have basically done in the past, a peaceful transfer of power where you peaceably, once we get the results of who won, that person that didn't win, and with him being, Trump was the president should have said, well, I want to congratulate the new incoming president and his team, his administration. That should have been, but it should have been, invited to the White House like other previous presidential elects and vice presidents have been. But see, let me show you how good God is. Joe Biden already know that White House. Joe Biden and his wife, now our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, did the right thing when Trump and Pence won in 2016. They invited Mike Pence, his wife Karen, to the vice president. They did the right thing. So did President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama, knowing that Donald J. Trump hated him, and his wife Melania, also the birther of the lie that President Obama wasn't born in the United States. When she herself wasn't born, she was a foreigner, but because of getting with Trump years later, marrying him and getting a son, that she became a citizen. Like I said, through change migration, she's gotten her parents now citizens of the United States. See, the Obamas and the Bidens did the right thing, but Donald J. Trump, he and Melania didn't offer to invite the new president-elect Biden and his wife to the White House. But again, to tell you how good God is, they didn't need an invitation. They already been to the White House. They know the White House. Biden had been prior to Trump's administration, the last 8 years prior, the Vice President of the United States. I'm sure him and his wife probably told Kamala and her husband, Doug Ossoff, about the Vice President's residence. So they didn't need that. But it's the principle of it. It's the protocol of it. It's doing the right thing. But no, Trump didn't do it. Melania didn't do it. Nor did the Pence. Because see, the Pence didn't want to piss off Trump. He refused to do a peace for Trump. That lady, I think her name was Amanda something. I can't even remember. The secretary that refused to do the protocol so that at that time, President-elect Biden at the time could get the necessary paperwork to start getting his cabinet members and all of that type of stuff. See, all of that was just toxic from the Trump administration. Nothing was done peacefully, with the right way, with respect and integrity. Like I said, he's never respected the office of the President of the United States, and then had the audacity to do everything that he could and then some. So much so that he incited an insurrection, still trying to overturn the will of we, the American people. Somebody better hear me. Somebody better hear me. Donald J. Trump never respected being the President of the United States. The white supremacy in chief, as Representative Cori Bush said when she voted to impeach for the second time, and as House Representative of House Manager Jamie Russell said today, the insurrectionist in chief. Because see, he stopped being the president and focused completely on trying to overturn the will of we, the American people. The Georgia call to Brad Rassenberg and others trying to overturn Georgia election results, asking for 11,780 votes. It's now being reported that they have opened up, the state of Georgia officials have opened up a criminal investigation, and they should, because that was criminal, and this insurrection also was. It's time for Donald J. Trump to be held accountable. He's done too much. And no, he don't get to just get a pass. No, we don't just move on without accountability being done. There's no ands, if, buts about it. You got it's been reported, 140,000 Republicans since this insurrection took place January the 6th, 2021, which is now a month and 4 days. 140,000 Republicans have changed their party affiliation because they are tired of what this Republican Party has become. And what have they become? The Trump cult. The Trump cult. Trump incited the insurrection. He put out that he won by a landslide, in his words, to his base. He just ramped them up with stuff that would just make them go wild and crazy. What we saw and what we're seeing from this second impeachment trial, he put out that big lie, the grand lie that he won the election, where he did not. Never was there evidence to support his lie. And then you had congressmen and women senators, House of Representatives, to condone and go along with that lie. That even after the day when they reconvened, they still had people to go and vote against it. This is just, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. It's reported 58% want Trump to be barred and never hold office again. I'm in agreement. 56% think Trump should be convicted and held accountable. And that's a big number. And he should be convicted. He should be held accountable. And going back, let me go back again. I'm going to go back to these Republicans. And Mitch McConnell, he supposedly, the reason he voted with the Republican not to have the Senate trial is unconstitutional because Trump is no longer the president. Again, Mitch McConnell chose not to hold Trump accountable. He chose not to bring the senators back. But catch what they're saying. They're saying it's unconstitutional, but not once have they not said he's not guilty. Why? Because they know that he is. So you have to be very attentive in every little detail. Things said, things not said, and intent, not intent, all of it. That's why you got to be very intelligent and very just your mind is just in it all, and you're grasping it all. You're understanding it all. It's unconstitutional according to the Republicans, which is a lie. It has been debunked. But yet they're not saying he's not guilty. Again, somebody better hear me. Because they know he's guilty. They know he should have been held accountable prior to leaving office. Let that have been any other person. Let that have been President Barack Obama. Let that be Joe Biden now. Let that have been, say, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton. But of course we know Bill Clinton was impeached, just wasn't removed. Let that have been any other president. Those Republicans, and then if they'd have had the House and the Senate like they did, in which they've been in control for quite some time now, they fought tooth and nail with President Obama, wouldn't let him hardly get anything accomplished. As he said in an interview with Charlamagne the God in the Breakfast Club when he was doing the interviews for his new book, The Promise, and Charlamagne had asked President Obama why you didn't get more done, why you didn't get more done for black lives. He said he couldn't. They wouldn't allow him to. He was fought tooth and nail. Mitch McConnell said that he wouldn't work with him. See, you gotta know it all. We got to have all the facts of everything. It's always two sides, and yes, there is always the truth. But you got to be willing to do the research, do the deep research of getting the truth. Because see, so much they don't want us to know. So much they try to cover up. So much they try to and do lie about, conceal, deflect, misconstrue, take it out of context, and flat out just don't make it knowledgeable to us. And I find it sad. So many don't believe Trump will be held accountable. And I guess they're looking at I get it. They know the Republican, which is now basically the Trump cult. And they didn't hold him accountable in the first impeachment. But again, I go with God. I believe the report of the Lord. And I know that God is a God of order, God of decency. And he said for those he loved, he chastened. And no sin goes unpunished. And even if he do get out, here on this side, he won't get out by God. But I'm still trusting God for the right thing to be done here on earth, in earth. That he be convicted and disbarred from ever holding office. But so I get somewhat, I don't like it. I guess that's the best way to say it. That many, because so many people, I've seen other blogs, other YouTube channels, and Sunny and people, various people and social media, all of this, well, he's not going to be found guilty. He won't be convicted. He'll get another acquittal. I just simply refuse to believe that, and I refuse. But Trump has never been held accountable for the things he's done the past 4 years. And this is where we are, where our country, the country of the United States of America, has an insurrection on the watch of our own. People died. People have since taken their lives. But the fact that many think he won't be held accountable really says a lot about our government officials, Senate, House of Representatives, etc. They are despicable, and they're corrupt, they're complicit, they're evil, they're vile, and I could go on and on. We need new officials because people have just become too complacent. And I know you know what complacent means. They have become too complacent in doing whatever they want for themselves, not you and me, not we, us, the American people, but themselves. They are the ones they are rich and they're getting richer. We're poor and we're getting poorer. We're struggling and we're struggling more. Again, they don't even want to give a stimulus package. They don't even want to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour at a 40-hour work week. That's $600. They don't want that for you and me, the average American people. That's an insult. That's an insult. This is my whole point perspective. They really gonna allow Trump to get away with an insurrection, inciting an insurrection, lied about not having a fair and free election. 5 people died. Again, 2 people have committed suicide. Losing an eye, which means losing eyesight, fingers broke. Our nation capital was breached, something that had not happened over 200 years ago, since 1814. And this is 2021. And they are all okay with that. They're okay with that. There's no problem with holding Trump accountable. They have no problem. Something is wrong, and something is seriously wrong. But again, if we can't get at least 17 Republicans to do the right thing, 1, because it's the right thing to do, 2, because Trump is guilty. Trump incited an insurrection, so therefore he needs to be held accountable in the Senate as he has been in the House of Representatives. He needs to be convicted. He needs to be disbarred to never hold office. But if we don't get at least 17 Republicans to do that, we already see and know the majority of the Republican Party are just as complicit, just as vile, just as hateful, racist, and prejudiced as Trump. But if they don't convict this man for this, they are far worse than him. And that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. But like I said, I know, you know, we know, because if you be honest, if you be truthful, Trump is despicable. He's evil. He's vile. He's corrupt. He's a con man. He has no shame. He only cares about himself. But if our government officials don't hold him accountable, it says so much more about them. And they have not given any factual facts to why he shouldn't be held accountable. How are you just gonna ignore the evidence? You gonna use this defense, this motive you have put in place, this talking point, because that's what the Republican does. They have talking point. They never have facts. That you gonna use as your defense, your motive. It's unconstitutional. Therefore, you just gonna ignore the facts. And then again, you were there too. Your life was in harm's way. All of you had to be rushed and shielded out to safe places, quarantine together. Many, as they said, was on where they are having the impeachment trial. They're in the chambers. You were shown hiding on the floor. You took off your pins so that if you had to, upon going out, if you were faced with those domestic terrorists, they wouldn't know that you were the congressmen and women. But you're not going to hold this man accountable? Are you really that far gone? Is there really no humanity whatsoever? And again, you so caught up in politics that there's no humanity, no empathy, no compassion, that people lost their lives. And again, your life could have been taken. Many of them, House Manager Jamie Rasberg talked about how his daughter and his son-in-law was there, and how his daughter says she don't want to go back to the Capitol. Mike Pence's wife and daughter was there. Many of them had their daughters there. Staffers was there. And it's been said that staffers had wrote letters begging that Trump be held accountable. So do you mean to tell me that no one life is important enough for at least 17 Republicans? And it should be all. But again, in order to get a conviction, there's not at least 17 men and women that has some strength, some courage, some valor, like Officer Eugene Goodman, who put his life in harm's way. They showed the video today of him running and telling Senator Mitt Romney to follow him, getting him out of the arm ways of those domestic terrorists. I don't know why they're calling them riders. They were calling by their name, domestic terrorists. That is who they are. White supremacists. Trump's cult. But again, there's not enough of you that you not going to convict this man that almost took your lives, and 5 people died that day. Lives have died since. And again, this will be in America's history for the rest of all of our lives. This is what Trump, president, is going to be known for. That this man, the 45th president of the United States, incited an insurrection, and that we had senators 3 days prior and representatives that 3 days prior on a Sunday, January the 3rd, stood with their Bibles in pairs of twos, and your left hand on the Bible and your right hand raised in promise. You took an oath to serve and protect, to defend our United States Constitution against foreign and domestic. And you're not going to hold the man, the 45th president, accountable for inciting an insurrection? There are no words. There are no words. I can't even imagine being in that room as the congressmen and women and everybody that's in the room, the staffers and the jurors and the house managers and all of those people, seeing that. Again, they witnessed it and lived it out in real time, and they're reliving it again in real time as we are the American people. it's so much that I could continue to say. I'm going to read, I wanted to read the House managers' names. These are the House managers that's representing in the impeachment trial. Jamie Rascal, Dinah DeGrette, David Sinclair, John Castro, Eric Sawell, Ted Lea, Stacey Plaskett. She did a phenomenal job today. Madalena Dean, Joe Negus, U.S. House of Representatives. And yesterday, they voted on whether to have the trial, and it was only 6 Republican senators that voted that should be a second trial, which is they did do the opening argument yesterday. The trial got underway, and today was day 2. When they did the vote the first time, it was only 5 Republicans to vote, and yesterday they had one more person to be added, and that was Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana. He was the 6th person. They had Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Senator Mitt Romney of Utah, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, and Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. Thus far, the only 6 Republican senators that voted to have the impeachment trial, and basically voting to hold Trump accountable. And Mitch McConnell, again, the person that said that Trump incited the insurrection and responsible again is still his reasoning for voting not to have the trial is because he's no longer president, in which he allowed him to walk away basically scot-free January the 20th instead of holding him accountable. Trump, for the past 4 years, has pretty much basically really torn this country apart because he is a very blatant, blunt, openly racist person with hate inside his heart, especially for people of color and immigrants of this country, that the Republicans chose him to be the candidate, and he won the presidency in 2016 and took office in 2017, and he has emboldened racism. They got so comfortable with it being just as bold and just as blatant and just as blunt as he. All the rhetoric that he used, his language, being very disrespectful, again, not being respectful to the office of president or anyone else. But yet and still, the Republican Party, the GOP, that grand old party, have said complicit for the past 4 years and continue to intentionally, willfully sit complicit, accomplice to this man inciting an insurrection and refusing to hold him accountable. This is where we are in the United States of America. This is why I say we all got to start doing our parts as American citizens to hold these people accountable, be vocal in our voices for what is right, because we need new, better leadership, people that's going to hold people accountable, people that's going to do the right thing for we, the American people, and not themselves. I'm tired of them hollering, the American people, when you show us every day, you don't care. But I would say this to all 50 states where we, the American people, live. I live in the state of Mississippi, just like the people of South Carolina and Kentucky, and where I'm not sure. I know Josh Hawley is Missouri, Ted Cruz is Texas. I'm not sure what that old Rand Paul, what state he's from. I can't think right now, but people of these states that got people like Rand Paul, Josh Hawley, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, all these, and even our state with the woman that was sit front row, Cindy Hyde-Smith at a public hanging, even Roger Wicker, he's our the other state senator from. And then we got Michael Guest and Trent Lott, Kelly, or whoever the representatives are. All these Republicans, Democrats, and especially to my people, African Americans, black people, we saw what Georgia did. They flipped their state blue, and that happened by black registered voters voting. We got to get out and vote. The only way we make a difference is at the ballot box. Making our voices heard, making our votes count so that they know we make a difference. And we're not going to stand for not being cared for, respected, and done right. I implore African Americans and anyone else, if you're not registered to vote, register to vote. And then at every election, whether it's just your local level, whether it's for a mayor, alderman, or whatever the case may be, and especially in our presidential elections, our senator election, our House of Representatives, and our government officials, make sure you vote. Because we see where we are at, and it's sad. It's a sad day in America. It's a sad day in this country of the United States of America. So much hate, so much racism, so much prejudice to you allow the president to incite an insurrection, and no one wants to hold him accountable, or not enough people. He needs to be convicted, and he needs to be disbarred. We need better leadership in our future, because this is not we can't continue on the path that we're on, where Republicans just want you to, as Nikki Haley said, move on. Or they want to talk the word unity, but have no desire for what it means. We got to do our part. We, the American people. We, the American people. Please, if you are not registered to vote, make sure you get registered. Make sure you vote in every election, the local and especially in presidential election, because this is where we are. This is where we are in America. And I cried today. Yesterday, I was like, oh my God, when I saw that 13-minute video. And today, seeing it again, seeing more horrificness, I cried today. I'm probably going to cry some more before all of this is over. And I hope I get to cry tears of joy with the conviction and disbarring of Donald J. Trump. America, we got to do it, and we got to do it together. Because we have a lot of people against us. But as we see, Joe Biden won this election. So therefore, it can be done. Georgia flipped the election blue in the presidential election. Also in their 2 Senate runoff. It can be done. It can be done. And we need new, better leadership where people will be held accountable, and they will know they got to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. They can no longer do what they want without any consequence, without any accountability, because we will not allow it. We will not stand for it. This is my commentary. I'm LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk and continue to watch this second impeachment of Donald J. Trump as it continues to unfold, and we continue to see more evidence and things that we couldn't even imagine. I'm LaMarsha Lewis. Let's talk.